Florida Education Commissioner Manny Diaz officially began his term on Monday, says he's ready to raise the bar at UWF. Diaz spoke this morning on the importance of maximizing the university's potential military partnerships, from graduation rates to athletics too. Diaz says his goal is for UWF to maximize that potential.
We have students that have placed their trust in us here at this institution by deciding to come to UWF, and it is our duty, our responsibility, to give them 1,000% and those opportunities and make sure that they have a bright future. We shouldn't play second fiddle to any other institution, not only in this state but in this country.
Tonight at 5, hear more from the interim president as I ask him about the changes that we've seen this year and how he plans to move forward.
Former Pensacola Police Chief Randall now breaking his silence after his abrupt resignation on Thursday. Sue Strawn joining us now for that conversation. Sue?
That's right. The former chief is joining us for that first conversation. And first of all, Randall, thank you for being willing to talk with us this afternoon. First of all, I want to go back to the beginning, if you would. For people who do not know Randall, 1991 grad, Washington High School. You served 8 years in the Navy. Then talk about your policing career from there.
Well, first of all, thank you, Sue, and thank you, WAR, for taking the time to allow me to come in and talk to the community and to the police department, because I didn't get that chance last week. And, to talk about my career and all those things. So my law enforcement career started in 1998 while I was still active duty in the Navy. I have a passion for service to our country and service to the great communities that I served in. So I started in 1998 as a reserve officer in Newport News, Virginia. Worked my way as a reserve officer all the way up to assistant chief of police. I worked in many different assignments, have a ton of experience, 2 degrees from an educational standpoint, and worked about and done about almost everything you could think of in law enforcement. And in 2021, I had the great opportunity to come back home to my community, my hometown here at Pensacola, and be able to do some remarkable thing that has never been done before. Come in as an outside chief and make a difference in this community.
Now, you say coming in as an outside chief. One of the things that was mentioned on yesterday at a press conference at the police department, the acting chief, Kristen Brown, she made the statement that you came in at a disadvantage. She said he didn't know us and we didn't know him, that you were an outsider coming in, that you came in at a disadvantage. Do you feel that you came into that department at a disadvantage? Because when the perception of law enforcement is that it is a closed group, if you would, that your brothers and sisters in arms. Were you that outsider coming in?
Whenever you come in, anytime from outside an organization, there's always an uphill battle to build relationships and set forth the mission and the goals of the organization. But when I came here, I hit the ground running. I may have been an outsider, but I'm an insider to this community because I was born and raised here, lived here for 18 years of my life, graduated from Booker T. Washington High School. Many of my friends still live here today in long-lasting relationships. So I think that aspect was very important for me as well.
But were you able to break down those walls within the department? I mean, because here you have the new acting chief saying that you were perceived as that outsider and that they didn't know you and you didn't know them.
Of course, when a new chief comes in from the outside, there's that apprehension of not knowing the new chief. But I think I had the opportunity to break down many of those barriers and many of those walls. And I'll give you an example. My first week here, it was amazing to see the shock on the officer's face when they saw the chief working after 5, going out on calls for service. It was a shock to them. And as the years went on and time went on, it was just amazing when I show up on scenes of crime, show up on calls for service, and my officers at that point, they felt comfortable. It's like, oh, that's just the chief. He's always out here.
What were some of the challenges that you faced? Not just necessarily rank and file challenges with the department, but what were the challenges for the community that you faced?
So a lot of challenges that you face, not only here particularly to Pensacola, but I can talk Pensacola specifically, is police community relationship, police community trust, and then recruitment and retention. When I first got here to Pensacola, the department was down 20+ officers. That is a massive amount of people for the size of the department that we have. So over the last 4 years, we have worked diligently to revamp the processes, go from a cyclic hiring process to a continuous hiring process, and revamp the measures and things that we use. Before I had left, we were fully staffed. The day I left, I think we had 1 vacancy. That is unheard of in many agencies around this country in today's environment. The days of people staying in law enforcement for 15, 20, 30 years, I mean, most people don't stay that long. If you can keep somebody 2 to 5 years, you have a win there. But recruiting, retention, and being able to build trust in the community, I think that was a very, very important aspect of it as well. And to deal with crime, because no community can survive if they have a high crime rate. And no community can foster and do the great things they've been doing in Pensacola unless people feel safe. And over time, and last year, we were designated as the 4th safest city in America. Let me say that again, the 4th safest city, not in Florida, not in the Southeast, but in America, these United States. I think that is a great feat, not only for myself, but for the men and women of the organization to be able to culminate and have that designation, and we should celebrate that.
If you have a department and you're saying that you're up to having just 1 vacancy and you had 22 when you came in some 4 years ago, let's talk about the survey that was done. There was a survey and it showed a loss of confidence. That doesn't sound like those two things are meshing. What precipitated that loss of confidence?
There's a lot of things that go into a survey. As law enforcement officers, I mean, we deal with some of the most challenging things in the community, in life. I mean, a lot of times there's a lot of, when people call the police, they don't call us to say, hey, we're having a good day. Most people calling us when there's a crisis. I mean, there's constant trauma dealing with law enforcement officers each and every day. There's the national narrative that plays into a lot of different things. But as a chief, I think it's important to be visible, to be out there, and to be able to support your personnel as the best that you can do. Some of the things that we've done over the years, that I've done, is one, back when I first got here, there was an incident at the police department where a gentleman came into the front parking lot and called 911 and said he was going to commit suicide. Several gunshots was fired in the front of that parking lot. At that time, our back parking lot wasn't secure. So now we have an armed individual suicidal in the front parking lot. Unfortunately, the individual wound up committing suicide, but that shook the department. And more importantly, that shook the civilians, the professional staff that we have in that building, because they don't expect that, they don't feel that that should be coming to the building. And then not too long after that, with the fence not being secure, we had an individual commit arson. Set one of our vehicles on fire and tried to set the building on fire. A building that had police officers, and more importantly, a building that had our 911 dispatchers inside the building at the same time. We were ultimately able to arrest that individual, and through the grace of relationships with the federal government, we federally charged the individual and convicted him for arson of a government facility that was receiving federal funds. So those are just some examples of some things we've done. New cars. Ever since I've been here, 13 to 15 cars a year are purchased for new cars. Equipment. We've got new body cameras, new technology. The officers are utilizing our partnership with the Real-Time Crime Center. I've actually added 2 analysts there to see how that mechanism has come into place. I remember when we first started that endeavor, there was a lot of apprehension not to know what to expect. But law enforcement in today's environment is investigations are technology, AI advanced. So the addition of the Real-Time Crime Center and the analysts over there, officers are getting real-time information on how they do things. The other part of this too is our firearms. The firearms were beyond usable limits, so to speak. So this fall, the department has transitioned to a new firearm. Every last one of the officers has transitioned to a new firearm, new duty weapons, new SWAT vehicle. You saw the stories of the white van that the officers were using. These are things that not just weren't going on, during my watch, but these things that have happened that I had to deal with when I got here. So now we have a new armored Bearcat through the grace of the working with the mayor's office and the city council to be able to have a new armored rescue vehicle that we can utilize to make sure the community and the officers are safe. Those are just a few examples of things internally. And then one more, communication. Communication is very important. As the chief, I was very open, very honest, very visible. I spent a lot of time on the road, a lot of time backing officers on calls, observing what they're doing. That way, the decisions that we made from the admin side of the house, we knew exactly what the end user was going through. So those decisions we made were very, very effective in the use of the things that they were doing out in the city.
But those things did not translate. The mayor said you weren't meeting expectations, at least his expectations, and mutually it was agreed that you were going to leave. So you left on last Thursday.
Yes, ma'am. Mutually, it was agreed upon. The mayor wanted to go a different direction, and we mutually agreed to separate the relationship.
And there was a message that you wanted to give to the department today. There was a message that you wanted to leave to the community.
Yes. First of all, I want to apologize to the department and to the community. I didn't get a chance to say my well wishes to each and every one of you. To the men and women of the Pensacola Police Department, you are the greatest. Thank you for all that you have done for me, all that you do for this community, and please stay safe, and I support you 110%, and thank you for the courageous work you do each and every day to make sure this city is a safe place to live, work, play, and raise a family. You are truly trendsetters when it comes to law enforcement. The work that you're doing is recognized nationally. And to the dispatchers, I specifically want to speak to them as well because they don't get enough recognition. And I told them recently about how I always and forever always recognize our 911 dispatchers. You are the unsung heroes behind the phone call. You are the gateway to public safety. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice, and hang in there. Things will always get better. And lastly, to the professional staff. And I call them professional staff because they're not civilian staff, they're professionals. Thank you for the backbone support that you've given to the department, you've given to me. You guys work hard each and every day. Sometimes you don't see and get the praise that you get because you're working behind the scenes, but I truly, truly, really appreciate all the work you've done under my watch. And I also want to thank the community. There's been great community support here in Pensacola. I'm homegrown. I'm a product of the public school system. So, to the community out there, thank you for all you have done for me. Thank you for all that you would do for Pensacola. I'm here, I'm good, and the future is very, very bright for all of us. And I appreciate you, I love you all, and thank you for the well wishes, the phone calls, and everything that you've done over the last week.
So you are leaving. Obviously, you're out of there. Again, this was mutually agreed. Do you feel that the surveys told a true story, that there was a loss of confidence, and that this was warranted?
You know, when we talk about that, I mean, everybody has their opinion on things. I mean, surveys are just that. They're an instrument of things that go on. They're one instrument of a lot of things that you can use. You know, when you think about the survey, you look at the other survey, the survey of citizen satisfaction. 65% of satisfaction for the police department. You know, when you look at cities around the country, when you got high citizen satisfaction and low crime, that's somewhat highly unusual. That's unique. So, okay. You know, surveys, you know, they're going to be here. They were here before I came, and they will be here after I left. So.
All right. Eric Randall, thank you very much for coming and spending some time with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
More news after the break. Downtown business owners concerned their bottom lines may take a hit. Coming up as the city prepares to reimagine Palafox, the choice still to be made on the project.
And shifting responsibility for disaster response, potential changes if the Trump administration tears down FEMA.
Download the WEAR News app now. Sponsored by Forrest Jordan and Associates.
First warning weather. Sponsored by